Hi everyone. So welcome to the third part of the mindfulness series in your MPS class. And so first we're going to start with a practice, and then we're going to continue to understand how our brain and our nervous system work together. Because the more we understand how it works, the easier it is to work with it, right? We know what's going on, and so that we can interrupt the process of either being hijacked by our survival brain or, slowing down the stress response. Okay, so let's start with just getting comfortable. We're going to start with our practice. So go ahead and adjust your body to make sure that you feel comfortable. We're already bringing our attention to the present moment experience when we bring our attention to our comfort. So go ahead and allow yourself to adjust. Notice that you feel comfortable. And now I invite you to either have a low gaze, so looking down a little bit in front of you at something that's not too stimulating, the floor or table or something like that, or close your eyes if that feels good. What we're doing is sort of slowing down the external stimulation. And now I'm going to invite you to do one of those things that we talked about last week that helps put on the brakes, which is that deep breath with a long exhale. So if that feels good to you, let's try a couple of those. So again, we're doing some things that will put the brakes on our nervous system, right? Because in case it's gotten revved up by what we were doing right before this, or what's been happening in the day, or something we read, or some conversation we had, we want to help it deactivate, right? By taking the deep breaths. And that's one thing you can do all during the day without closing your eyes or without sitting in mindfulness practice. Is take a deep breath and notice that long exhale. Okay, so now I'm going to invite you to bring your attention to your body, and specifically to the contact points of where your body touches what's holding you up. Mindfulness is paying attention to our present moment experience, and there's many experiences happening. So one of them right now is that there's sensations between your body and what's holding you up. So you might feel your back against the chair. Maybe that's a firm, supportive sensation. And your butt is touching the seat of the chair. That could feel soft or warm. Your feet might be touching the floor. What's the sensations there? And then your hands are touching something, right? Can you bring your attention to that sensation? And now if you notice, you might tap into the sensation of gravity happening. We don't often notice that, but it is a present moment experience. So you might feel that feeling of being pulled to the ground, Maybe it's a feeling of heaviness for you. And then there's also that sensation of support from what's holding you up, the chair, the couch, or the bed. So we're gently just bringing our attention to those sensations right now. Allowing yourself to sink into that support. And now let's bring our attention to the experience of sound. What sounds do you notice that are happening in your space? You might have sounds within your room, a fan or a clock. Maybe there's sounds in the next room or outside. You might even hear sounds from your own body, your breath, or your heartbeat. So bringing our attention to those sounds. And one normal thing that usually happens, although I'm not saying it's going to happen, but if it does, I really want you to be okay with that, is that a sound could trigger a thought. You know, maybe we hear the dripping of a faucet and we think, oh man, I need to fix that. Or, you know, the fan, because it's so warm and I forgot, I'm uncomfortable with all this warmth, the heat. So what happens then, your mind is now starting to think. Your attention is being pulled away from the sounds. So that's absolutely normal. And our practice is that when we notice that we're not paying attention to sound anymore or to our anchor, we just gently bring our attention back to that. We notice, oh, I was thinking, and now I'm going to bring my attention back to those sounds. And if it's hard to pull it back, you can bring it back to the sensation of gravity, if that was a more compelling experience that you preferred to pay attention to. And as always, if any of this feels super uncomfortable, almost threatening for any reason, you can just open your eyes and look around and settle, let your body settle, and you can come back if you like. But let's just do this for a few more seconds, noticing the sounds in our space. And if we're diverted to thinking, we gently come back. Okay, wherever your attention is, let's gently come back to the room, coming back maybe by moving your toes, your fingers, your wrists, your shoulders, you know, gently coming back to my voice. And when you feel ready, go ahead and open your eyes and join me back at the screen. Okay. So take a moment to look around if you like, get your bearings, and notice how you feel. How does it feel now as opposed to how it was before? And there's no right way to feel. It could feel better, it could feel the same, it could feel worse on some level, uncomfortable. All that is noticing our present moment experience without judging it. Mindfulness. Okay, so what I'd like to do now is share a little video with you on a subject called neuroplasticity. It's a phenomenon that happens in the brain, and it's important into learning about how this mindfulness works and how it can serve you. Okay, so let me share my screen here.
Not so long ago, many scientists believed that the brain did not change after childhood, that it was hardwired and fixed by the time we became adults. But recent advances in only the last decade now tell us that this is simply not true. The brain can and does change throughout our lives. It is adaptable, like plastic. Hence, neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity. How does neuroplasticity work? If you think of your brain as a dynamic, connected power grid, there are billions of pathways or roads lighting up every time you think, feel, or do something. Some of these roads are well-traveled. These are our habits, our established ways of thinking, feeling, and doing. Every time we think in a certain way, practice a particular task, or feel a specific emotion, we strengthen this road. It becomes easier for our brains to travel this pathway. Say we think about something differently, learn a new task, or choose a different emotion. We start carving out a new road. If we keep traveling that road, our brains begin to use this pathway more, and this new way of thinking, feeling, or doing becomes second nature. The old pathway gets used less and weakens. This process of rewiring your brain by forming new connections and weakening old ones is neuroplasticity in action. The good news is that we all have the ability to learn and change by rewiring our brains. If you have ever changed a bad habit or thought about something differently, you have carved a new pathway in your brain and experienced neuroplasticity firsthand. With repeated and directed attention towards your desired change, you can rewire your brain.
Okay, so neuroplasticity. So that's really good news. It means, especially for like uh, brain injuries or for learning, right? It just means that we practice something over and over. We create a pathway, even if it was damaged at some point, or when we don't have a pathway, but uh, we create this pathway by doing something, and if we do it over and over, that pathway gets stronger and becomes a habit. So how does that relate to stress resilience, stress resistance? Well, a lot of times we have created habits that don't serve us when we're stressed out, right? But we think they are. So let me give you an example. Let's say you are going to start to do your homework. You want to study for an exam or learn, a new equation or something, how to do a new equation, right? And it starts to make you a little nervous. I know when I do my bills, I start to get a little nervous. Anything with money and, I don't know. I just start to get nervous. I feel that. So you start to feel nervous and you go, oh, I'm going to check my phone. So you look at your phone. For a few minutes, what's happened is that you've diverted your attention from that nervousness to checking your phone. And so it kind of reads in your system as the nervousness went away. Okay. So your mind says, oh, cool. If I check my phone, when I do my homework, I feel nervous. When I check my phone, I'm not noticing that nervousness. So the next time, so you come back to your homework or I come back to my bills and we start to feel nervous again, and we check our phone again, and then, we're distracted for a minute. We do that over and over, and now we've created a habit, a pathway that says, oh, every time nervous, check your phone. The problem with that is that it's not really putting on the brakes, the things we talked about putting on the brakes. And I want to share that again. Remember last week we talked about things that actually put on the brakes, right? So the deep breaths, the noticing the good things, maybe a massage, the movement, the getting into nature. Those are the things that put on the brakes. Looking at your phone only distracts you from your nervousness. It doesn't actually slow down your nervous system, and your survival brain is not fooled. It's still noticing threat. It still knows that math, his homework is out there, or that exam is tomorrow. Those bills are still due. So it stays sort of revved up, but you're just distracted. You've moved your attention away from the stress. What we need to do is move our attention toward some of these ways to put on the brakes, and in that sense, and then do that over and over, so that what happens is that we decide, oh, I'm going to do my homework. Now I feel stressed. Okay, I'm going to take a few deep breaths and notice the deactivation. Okay, now a new pathway starts. You start doing your homework again. You notice the stress. Take a couple deep breaths. Or I'm going to notice the sensation of my body in the chair, or the sensation of gravity, or the sounds, whatever the mindfulness practices that we're doing. So when you notice the stress, if you do even a moment of that mindfulness practice, you will create a new pathway that actually helps you put on the brakes. That's not distracting you from the stress, but actually helping your nervous system to recognize that there is no threat and you can calm down. Okay. So that's what we're doing here, right? When people ask me, so how do I calm down? I think what they're asking is, how do I calm down right now? And remember what I said was that putting on the brakes is like a train. When we want to get that parasympathetic nervous system to engage, that rest and digest, we have to put on the brakes, and then it slows down slowly like a train. When the train puts on the brakes, it doesn't stop right there. It takes about a mile. So first we have to learn where our attention is, and we're doing that, right? We're noticing when it moves to our thoughts, and we're bringing it back. We have to know how to move it, and we're practicing that in mindfulness, right? We have to know how to move it. We need to make that muscle strong. Then we have to know where to move it to those places that put on the brakes, right? And then we do that over and over, and again we create the pathway, the habit. After a while, it's a habit that, oh, I'm feeling stressed. I know what to do. I'm going to bring attention to my body in this chair. I'm going to bring attention to the sensation of my breath going in and out. We'll work with many present moment experiences. I'm going to bring attention to the present moment experience and not judge it, and hopefully that will calm me down, right? So it takes time, and I'm hoping that you give it the time it takes, at least in these 10 weeks. And you can also, I'm just checking the time, you can also use the videos, right? If you start to feel stressed doing your homework, turn on just the practice part. See what happens. Let this be an experiment. See if in fact you're nervous, you calm down just enough. Doesn't mean it's going to feel like, it's not going to feel 100% great. It might just feel a couple of notches down. But just know that if you've done that, you've actually created a pathway that you can strengthen. And then when you're nervous, you actually have a way to bring it a couple of notches down. Who doesn't want a couple of notches down, right? Okay, so I hope that makes sense. If you have any questions, again, email me or put them down below in the comments section. And I appreciate you, and keep practicing, right? Keep making those brain pathways strong. Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.